Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Wrestling with Egos is pleased to present the third annual Wrestling with Egos Egie Awards, boys and girls. We're handing out that hardware. I got 14 of these bad boys. Actually, no, I don't. I just have one of them. I'm going to recycle 13 more times after this. But we are here. It is the Big Man, Isaac Smith. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing wonderful. I am the intellectual savior of the wrestling masses, Brian Kriego, coming to you live and direct from Intergalactic Radio Studios. The other boys could not be with us tonight, but we wish them all the best. The Reverend of the Rant Patrick, the AEW Assassin RJ, we're thinking about you boys, and we hope you're having a joyous Christmas season. We hope all of you out there in Wrestling with Egos land are having a joyous Christmas season. Gang, there's been so much great wrestling in 2021. I would say a little bit better than last year. And we had some great wrestling in 2020 also. If you don't believe us, go back and check out last year's Egie Awards. You can find that on YouTube. You can find that on Spotify, Google, Apple, all of the ways and platforms that you're able to get us. We appreciate your input. We appreciate your interacting with us. We're going to do our best to hand out some awards. We hope you agree with us, but if you don't, that's okay, because it encourages discourse and it encourages opinions and it encourages all of those things that make our society great. But before we get to that, Big Man, there was an event on Wednesday put on by our friends at All Elite Wrestling called Winter is Coming. Kicking off the show was Adam Page, Hangman, defending the AEW championship for the first time against a guy who's had a pretty big 2021 in Bryan Danielson. And my brother, they wrestled for 60 minutes to a time limit draw. It got serious consideration for only happening 3 days ago for being the AEW match of the year. And you'll have to keep watching to see if it wins AEW match of the year, by the way. Isaac, first of all, your thoughts, good sir, on the proceedings from Wednesday night with Hangman and Bryan Danielson.
That was phenomenal. Not to sit here and steal that from AJ Styles, but that was a phenomenal match. 60 minutes on TV. And they both were killing the game. They were fantastic, both of them. And I'm not mad at the draw, but I wanted to see wrestling, and I saw some wrestling. I saw a lot of great things that happened, and I was so excited. And I'm so excited to see what's going to happen in the future for the rematch, for that. We know it's coming. It might be in 6 months. It might be in a year. It will be coming. But we all know.
For the record, Isaac, you said you're not upset that it was a time limit draw?
Wasn't upset. It was
because the conjecture that I read on, the Twitters and the social medias, a lot of people wanted a definitive conclusion. We've talked at length on this show about how storytelling is so important, and AEW apparently thinks that Bryan Danielson and Adam Hangman Page are not finished telling their story. You saw how long it took Hangman to get it off of Omega.
Right, exactly.
They can stretch this out for the foreseeable future if they want to.
I agree. That's just not, you don't have those two guys that are, at that level and just make it definitive, okay, one and done. Very similar to what other promotions are doing with certain people. I think that's something that could be a 3 out of 5.
Oh, definitely.
Stuff like that. They can go down that route. And that's something I would love to see. And I think that's what the fans would love to see. But yes, I'm okay with that. Does it have to be that Hangman gets the total pin? Yeah. Not when you're wrestling guys like that. Not when you're wrestling guys at that level.
Did the match remind you of anything? Because there's a very clear parallel to me from a match from days gone by.
Not off the top of my head, but what did you think it reminded you of?
Because the very next day, I was driving into work, and I was thinking about the match, and I thought to myself, we just got this generation's Brett versus Shawn from WrestleMania.
Okay.
That match had a conclusion because it was an Iron Man match that went 0-0 for 60 minutes, and they had to go to overtime. But when you say that's the textbook definition of how do you make people pay attention for 60 minutes. I'll never forget Pat Patterson's line about an Iron Man match. You can't just have anybody wrestle an Iron Man match. And the thing with Brett and Shawn was we got to have people pay attention for 60 minutes. How do you do that without schmaz? How do you do that without interference? How do you do that without dusty finishes and things like that? You do it the way Brett and Shawn did it, wrestling and counter wrestling, storytelling. You do it the way Danielson and Hangman did it, wrestling and counter wrestling and storytelling. Danielson has become an exclusively submission-based wrestler in AEW, even more so than he ever was in WWE. He picks a body part, he breaks it down. Patrick would love hearing me, use that line of thinking. Brett and Shawn did the same thing. I forget what body parts they worked on, but I remember clearly Brett working on Shawn's legs, trying to hook in the sharpshooter at some point.
Right.
That's the ring psychology of the sharpshooter. You work on the legs, you soften them up, so that way when I hook you in, it's hard for you to get to a rope or break the hold. You have to tap out. And it honestly did not feel like an hour, this match. Danielson versus Hangman did not feel like it went an hour. It felt like a half an hour. And then I realized, what are they going to do for the rest of the show? Because to be perfectly honest, I was more focused on who might debut. Because one thing we did not talk about last week, I forget what match it was during, but there was somebody wrestling in the ring and the lights flickered red to blue and then back to white. And I don't know who that's supposed to signal. All the fanboys and fangirls went nuts. Oh my God, Bray Wyatt's coming. Oh my God, Wyndham Rotunda's coming. He may yet, but it's going to be a while first. And Tony Khan's great about stuff like that. He gets you to tune in next week and the week after that and the week after that. So the bottom line on Hangman and Bryan Danielson, this was more about cementing Hangman, I think. Because Bryan Danielson has spent, ever since he walked out on the stage at All Out, he's taken on all comers. He's wrestled 100 different matches. He's locked in about 10 or 15 different submission holds to win matches by my count. Ran through the Dark Order. We've done that to death.
Right.
And you can make an argument that nobody's had a better year wrestling-wise than he has. Foreshadowing alert. Because I saw a graphic on Twitter, like his match ratings. Whoever's scale you use, there's nothing lower than like a 4.5 from him. And that's one of the Dark Order matches. Maybe the Colt Cabana match was a 4.5-star match. But if he's getting a 4.5-star match out of Colt Cabana, at this stage of Colt Cabana's year or career, you look at the stuff he did with WWE and then the stuff he's doing now. I mean, my goodness, the man is just in another orbit. But we wanted to give that match some shine before we get into the awards portion of the program. Isaac, I'll ask you a follow-up question on that. You said you wouldn't mind seeing a best-of-5 series or something like that for these two. When do you think they have a rematch? Do you think it's as soon as Battle of the Belts, shortly after New Year's? Or do we wait until I forget what their first pay-per-view of the year is. Revolution? There's probably something before Revolution, but
I would give it at least 3 months.
Okay.
That's what I would do. And tease and say, hey, look, you remember what we did last time? And everyone's going to be like, yeah, I remember what you did. And I loved it. And you're going to sit there and you're going to tune in because he's going to say, I had you beat. Or he's going to say, I almost had you there. Or they're going to go back and forth. But the
Or
same.
Hangman could say, hey, you had your chance, go to the back of the line. There's any number of people who have designs in this, because I saw there was footage from a Comic-Con or a WrestleCon or something in Chicago recently. Hangman was on the stage. He was sitting right next to Adam Cole. Adam Cole couldn't stop staring at the championship. And CM Punk was on stage too. And he said, I'll be watching for Winter is Coming, and I would love a shot at that if you've got the time. So do I. So there's any number of directions they could go to, but we haven't seen the last of Danielson versus Omega, or Danielson versus Hangman. So without any further ado, it is time, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to hand out that hardware. We at Wrestling with Egos are proud to present the third installment of what has become a tradition unlike any other, the Egie Awards. We have 14 categories for you this evening. Some of them are legitimate categories. Some of them are just for laughs, as it were. Isaac and I will be splitting them up, taking turns. Some of these were pretty much slam dunk cases. Some of them required a little bit more workshopping, as it were, because they were not unanimous. There were some close calls here. Some recounts were needed in certain cases. I will be kicking off the festivities today, handing out the award for Tag Team of the Year. We love a good tag team match here at Wrestling with Egos, and we had 5 worthy nominees this year. The nominees for Tag Team of the Year are the Lucha Bros, FTR, the Young Bucks, the Usos, and the Briscoes from Impact. And we are proud to bestow the 2021 Egie Award for Best Tag Team on those top guys doing top guy things, FTR. And Isaac, the reason for the FTR winning this year is quite simply FTR had their fingers in a whole bunch of pies this year. Let me explain. They had rivalries with all the other AEW tag teams that were mentioned in this category. They had matches with Lucha Bros. They had matches with the Young Bucks. They found their way into the Pinnacle versus Inner Circle storyline because they're members of the Pinnacle. They found a way to win the AAA Tag Team Championships from the Lucha Bros. And at the Ring of Honor final battle the other night, the Briscoes were in the ring, and FTR came out of the crowd and got into a pull-apart brawl with them. So FTR's got this mentality, I think, of anytime, any place, anywhere. Doesn't matter what promotion you're a part of. Doesn't matter what belts you own. Doesn't matter where we got to go or we get you to come to our place or whatever. They're down for whatever. It wouldn't surprise me if they walked back into an episode of SmackDown sometime and gotten the Usos face without Vince knowing about it. They're just those kind of people. They just have that attitude about them that, you know what, I don't care. We're just going to do things to ruffle feathers. And Dax and Cash are 2 great wrestlers. They get the psychology of tag team wrestling better than just about anybody. So, well deserved in my opinion. What say you about FTR or some of the other nominees in this category?
Let me just say, first off, for the other nominees, I think it was a close race.
Mm-hmm.
Usos, Briscoes, Young Bucks, Lucha Bros. I think they're all taking it to a next level, especially this year. And they all look phenomenal. and I was, I was leaning somewhere else, but that's okay. That's just my opinion, But hey, I'm not mad, Adam. I'm looking forward to next year. I think that all your everything that you said was extremely valid and true, and I have no problem with it. But that's I would have gone a different way, but hey, to each their own. It's all good. No big deal.
That's totally fine. So with that being said, we're going to move on to our next category, which is a brand new award for us to give out this year. We are talking about the inaugural facepalm moment of the year in wrestling, because there was a lot of those to choose from too, boys and girls. Sadly, wrestling finds a way to give us those moments. There's a gift for you, Patrick. Facepalm of the year will be delivered by Isaac whenever you are ready, sir, with the nominees.
Okay, we have first nominee is the WWE putting the mask and the leather on Karrion Kross. AEW cutting Minoru Suzuki's theme music before it got to. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it.
You can just say the audience participation part.
Audience participation.
I forget what it was either, but
the AEW exploding ring match with Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega. The WWE releasing of all of their talent. We can highlight certain people. We can talk about that a little bit later. Spoiler, that's what we'll do. And those are our nominees. And the winner goes to the WWE releases. As far as we all know, the WWE has been releasing everyone and their grandmother plus 5 this year. We here at Wrestling with Egos would like to specifically talk about certain people that we felt they should have kept, or we felt that they didn't do enough for. Myself personally, I wanted to see Bray Wyatt stay. I wanted to see another person by the name, why am I blanking out? Of Keith Lee stay. I think that he was a phenomenal talent that they should have kept. And there was one other person that we discussed. Brian, please help me out with that one.
Hit Row.
I
did it bad enough. You don't have to double down.
Yeah. I believe.
I think the Hit Row was probably the most egregious one to me at this point, because Patrick brought up this, and I know you brought up this in recent weeks about them. They did most of the work for WWE. They had personalities, they had talents, and you didn't really have to do much. You just had to say, go do your thing. So, okay, great. You're over like Rover in NXT. You've got this stable. You've got Isaiah Swerve Scott as the North American champion. Okay, great. We're going to call you up to the main roster. Okay, great. Oh, well, now we're going to release one of your people. I think, forget, who was the first one to go? They went down to a threesome.
That was the female. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
B-Fab?
Yeah, B-Fab was let go.
So then, okay, well, now you got to rebrand yourself. Okay, fine, we'll do that. Well, now we're releasing the rest of you. So that seems to be the most egregious of all these examples. Not that Bray Wyatt, Keith Lee, Mia Yim, all the other people that we're, Karrion Kross, all the other people that we got behind so much were bad, but this was pretty bad. I'd feel slighted if I were any of those people. I will give them a smidgen, about that much, in case you're measuring at home, folks, for re-signing Kevin Owens. Because I feel like it was the episode right before Thanksgiving where I started freaking out about he's the next one to walk out the door. And Kevin Owens is one of my guys, that I like and that I root for and that I want to see do well. The quote came down from him that at the end was about doing what was right for my family. Apparently, he likes how he's being treated by the company. In that instance, I will give them credit for realizing the talent that they have in him and, coming up with a contract that meets everybody's needs. So I'll give you a smidgen of credit for that. So
we'll give you that much, but that's all that we're giving you because
that's all the leash you get right now.
You've disappointed us for the entire year with what you're doing, trying to make it seem that you're profitable in a time that's very tough to sit and be profitable during a worldwide pandemic and trying to make it nice for your shareholders to think that you actually did something when you did nothing. That really kind of upset me, but to each
our next category is another new category for us this year. It is the best super card of the year. And for the people at home that don't know, a super card is defined as a card where you just kind of throw everything at the wall, all your best stuff. You put it in this card because you want that card to be super. I think I've done that enough to drive Patrick nuts, so I think I'll leave it at that. And we're going to talk about the nominees for the super card of the year. The nominees for super card of the year are WrestleMania 37, not one night but 2 nights. Full Gear from AEW. Money in the Bank in July. The Royal Rumble from all the way back in January. It's hard to remember that far back. And All Out from AEW. And the winner, for reasons that we will discuss here momentarily, of the Egie Award for Super Card of the Year is, in fact, All Out. And in our prep meeting, before we hit the record button tonight, we looked up the Super Card for All Out and had to figure out, because this one got the most votes of any of them. And here's a few reasons why. On that card, the matches of note. You had Britt Baker defending her title against Chris Statlander. It was another one of my favorites. Great match. You had CM Punk's AEW in-ring debut versus Darby Allin. I'm looking to the rafters, as Darby's looking back at me. You had the brilliant steel cage match for the tag team championships between the Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros, won by the Lucha Bros. A great match. Match of the Year nominee we'll talk about later on. You also had the main event, which was Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage for the AEW Championship. And upon the completion of that match, you had the debuts within 5 minutes of each other of Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson, building upon the fact that Ruby Soho had debuted earlier in the evening as the Joker in the women's Battle Royal to become the #1 contender for Britt Baker's women's championship. When you add all that up, none of the other cards that we mentioned before, Mania, Full Gear, Money in the Bank, or the Royal Rumble, can really compare to that. I think in terms of match quality, in terms of surprises, in terms of memorable moments, and in terms of impact, I don't think any of the other cards hold a candle to that one.
I completely agree. Just with certain people just showing up, with Adam Cole showing up, with Bryan Danielson showing up, CM Punk, first match, Ruby Soho, that was the one that they killed. They went and killed it. And for me to say that when I've been a WrestleMania fan for so long and seeing all the great things they usually do, I got to give it to AEW.
Here's the question for you. Of those matches I mentioned, which one are you going to make it a point to keep queuing up from time to time going forward? Britt Baker and Chris Statlander, Punk and Darby, Lucha Bros and the Young Bucks, or Omega Cage?
Oh, my God. See, that's the problem right there. They were all fantastic.
And you can't say yes, 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 yes. That's not allowed. You got to pick one.
Okay. No, I'm just kidding. I'm probably going to queue up Lucha Brothers in the steel cage match.
Yeah.
Just because, even though I think that Darby did a fantastic job against CM Punk, and that's one that I'll
Bucks and Lucha Bros for me too, because I was watching that match thinking there was no way that the Bucks were going to lose, because the Bucks have that ability. They hold on to the titles no matter what. They hold on to their spot no matter what. And they play the heels to a T. We're the EVPs. We've been great for so long. We're elite, the elite, and all that kind of stuff. So you wind up thinking, how can anybody beat them? So then when somebody does beat them, it becomes a moment. And the moment that I'm always going to remember is Penta's daughter running up to him at the end of the match and getting a big hug and then getting blood all over the side of her face and stuff like that. I mean, that was real emotion right there. So richly deserved for All Out for getting the super card of the year. I didn't do it right. Super card of the year. And now it's time for an award that holds a special place in our hearts here at Wrestling with Egos. And we've changed the name of it this year because we're not even going to bring her up right now. She's, got bigger fish to fry, and she's, going on those future endeavors and everything like that. But it's time for that great award. It is the worst performer of the year. RJ has a standing, written in indelible ink, etched in granite vote for Ricky Starks in this category, but Ricky Starks actually shows up in another category that we'll talk about later on. But Isaac, the worst performer of the year award is actually being shared by a few folks, if you wouldn't mind telling us who those folks are.
Okay, this year, the worst performer of the year is a three-way dance, ladies and gentlemen. And we have to sit here and we're going to see who's dancing tonight. And it is Riddle. It is the Chairman Shawn Spears and Red Velvet. And all of them richly deserve this award.
This will be FedEx to you guys in the morning.
We got you. Just so you know, we got you.
I will take exception with one of these names. And the worst performer of the year is not an award I lose much sleep over. Because Lord knows that I could not hold my own in a wrestling ring, and these guys are way more talented than I am. I do have a little bit of a problem with Riddle being on this list. Riddle has gotten to go to the learning tree with Randy Orton this year. And he's grown as a performer. It's not just Bro and the Scooter and stuff like that. You're actually seeing, I feel like you're actually seeing shades of nuance in a character. You're seeing him show that he cares about somebody else other than himself. He wants RK Bro to succeed. So if we had a proper roundtable discussion on this, I would have said Riddle doesn't belong on this list. But I wasn't going to go against the grain on this one because it's just not an award that I spend a lot of time thinking about. To me, Shawn Spears and Red Velvet are the more obvious ones here because, as I told you in the pre-show meeting, what does Shawn Spears spend all of 21 doing?
Nothing but hit people with chairs.
Right. I can't remember the last match, proper match he was in, a decent promo. He just comes out and barks behind Wardlow or is sycophantic towards MJF. And I guess that's the point. If you're if you're on the bottom rung of the pinnacle, I guess that's what you do. But there's no development of character. There's no lofty goal you're trying to ascribe to there. So, and would you like to speak about the accomplishments of Red Velvet?
Red Velvet, I can see that she has potential, but it's just not there yet. We all know that she has, she's got a little something, but she has to work. She has to work on her craft a little bit more. She's not there with the other girls just yet. Some of the other girls got a little bit more experience, a couple more years under their belt. Red Velvet is still a little green. And I think that she, we give her a little time. She won't have this next year.
Okay.
I use the same thing as, and not to say this as the meaning towards Dr. Britt Baker, but Britt Baker wasn't the greatest at promos in the beginning, and they gave her some time, and we all can agree at this point in time, she is fantastic.
Yes.
So we just have to give her some time and give her some reps, and she will be fine. But,
and maybe not put her in all the frontline feuds right off the bat. Like, I think putting her across from Jade Cargill was a mistake. Not that I know who else you put in that spot. I don't know if it's just, availability, you're there, so you're going to wrestle. But Jade is a once-in-a-generation talent. And if you're not totally with it, you're going to look bad by comparison. You're going to make Jade look bad by comparison, unfortunately, because I feel like there's been some missteps with Jade's development, and it could have been because she was working with Red Velvet so many times at the very beginning. That's just my theory.
At the same time, we have to sit here and think what the feud with Jade Cargill would have been if Brandy Rhodes was available at the time.
True.
And that would have been something totally different.
Yeah.
But they did what they had to do at the time. That's all I'm saying.
So let's not waste any more time on that award. Let's move on to our next award of the evening, which we are happy to report is the best feud of the year. So in order to qualify for a feud, you have to have multiple matches with your dance partner. Hopefully there's some stakes involved. If it's not a career on the line, it's a title that you are bandying about. The nominees for feud of the year are Seth Rollins versus Edge, Kenny Omega versus Hangman Adam Page, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD versus Thunder Rosa, Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre, Malachi Black versus Cody, and MJF versus Chris Jericho, which was a late insertion into this feud, and I'm almost embarrassed to admit that I kind of forgot about that one. I mean, all summer long and into the fall, we were talking about the 5 Labors of Jericho and all the brilliant mic work that MJF was doing, and my God, we saw Juventud Guerrera made an appearance during that. My goodness. So those are your nominees. This one was not unanimous. There was a lot of spirited discussion about this one, but we are happy to anoint Edge versus Seth Rollins as our winner for Feud of the Year. I think what made us go in this direction was just the ferocity with which both men sunk their teeth into it. There were definitive stakes involved in this one. The title was there was no titles ever got into this feud. Not the Intercontinental Championship, not the WWE Championship or Universal Championship. Those were elsewhere. But just the ferocity of Seth Rollins, craving that spotlight, craving that attention, Edge saying, "You'll just be a pale imitation of me. You got to go to depths that, I'd be willing to go to." And then Seth shows up at Edge's house and helps himself to an apple and stuff like that. And, looks at the pictures hanging on the wall and things of that nature. I think all I'm going to say about this match, and here's a foreshadowing alert, shout out to Patrick. This feud got me to actually queue up a Crown Jewel match, which becomes very significant later on in the evening. Isaac, your thoughts on Seth Rollins versus Edge and why it ultimately won out over some of these other feuds?
I think that Seth Rollins versus Edge was two guys that are complete A-listers at the time. I'm not trying to use that as towards the Miz. Two guys that are on top of their game. They're at, and you sit there and you see basically a master class with these two guys. And they're showing everyone, okay, you want to see how this is done? You watch this match. And there are many times we sit back and say, okay, we just saw a master class when we saw this person and this person. That's another match. You're going to sit there and say, that's what you're going to watch. You're going to sit there.
And the fact that it kicked off that event, it was because I queued up Crown Jewel a couple of weeks ago, and I had my finger on the fast forward button, thinking, okay, this is probably going to be like middle of the event, maybe semi-main or something like that. No, I queued it up. They did their commentary, and then Seth Rollins' music hit, and I'm like, oh, we're starting, and I dare say the rest of the event suffered in comparison to that. I wonder if that was the right call to have it kick off the event, especially with that crowd. And we're not going to go off into a sidebar on the Saudi Arabia crowd and all the playboys and stuff like that are kind of walking around looking at their cell phones instead of, I don't know, watching the wrestling in the ring. But those two guys, we know what a master storyteller Edge is. Any doubts that I had about whether Seth Rollins could, sink his teeth into it the same way were erased from this feud. So for me, that's why this is the slam dunk. The other feuds, to be honest, Omega Page, like Patrick gave me some notes about Omega versus Page. It was a better story, but because they were kept apart so long, you couldn't really call it a feud in the sense that they were constantly wrestling each other the way Edge and Seth were. Or the way Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre were, or the way MJF and Chris Jericho were. I honestly think that if MJF and Jericho had been on the original list that we were passing around amongst each other, I might have given that some more consideration. Which just goes to show so much great stuff has happened in 2021. It's hard to keep it straight. So
yeah, I agree with that. That was a late addition, but we all got to sit here and say that was great storytelling.
Yes.
That went out for almost the entire year, and it was fantastic.
Yes.
So
with that, we will move on to our next award of the evening, which is our female wrestler of the year. Isaac, would you please be so kind as to give us our nominees for this esteemed category?
Yes, our female wrestler of the year, our nominees are Dr. Britt Baker, DMD.
We're contractually obligated to do that, folks.
Yes, we are.
She'll shut us down if we don't.
We also are contractually able to do this. Hashtag friend of the show, Dana Rosa.
La Mera.
Not Mera. We got Bianca Belair, Mickie James, Raquel Gonzalez, and those are our nominees, ladies and gentlemen. And the winner is Dr. Britt Baker, DMD.
Contain your surprise.
I know you guys were like, really? I saw this coming a mile away. Yes.
Some awards are like that. It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah, it'd be like that. Now, let's sit here and let's talk about Dr. Britt Baker. Let's not sit here and act like she wasn't killing the game. She was holding her own, great mic skills. She was doing fantastic work in the ring, and there was nobody else. There was a couple people we could sit here and say, well, this person was close. You know, we're not gonna dismiss Raquel Gonzalez, what she did at NXT. We're not gonna omit Bianca Belair because she had a great run other than the last little bit part of her title reign. But Dr. Britt Baker was the entire year, and she killed it. And we can't sit here and not say that she didn't, because she did. Congratulations, Dr. Britt Baker. Brian, anything else you'd like to add to that?
It's been a while since I've seen somebody just completely flip the script about their presentation themselves as a wrestler. I mean, and it's such a protracted amount of time too. You look at what The Rock did over the course of the beginning of his career when he fell in with the Nation and started finding his voice there. That took a while. You look at what Chris Jericho was able to do. That took a while. Trish Stratus evolving from a valet to, in a storyline with Stephanie, to all of a sudden main eventing Raw with Lita. That took a while. Britt Baker, her transformation seemed to happen overnight. I know it wasn't. I know there's a lot of work being put in there. But it goes to show you what can happen if you are trusted with a spot. Whomever she's working with backstage at AEW said, we're going to give you 5 minutes every night to go out and talk to the people. You want a stable? Fine, we'll give you Rebel and Jamie Hayter. You want another bad girl to align yourself with? We'll align you with Nyla Rose from time to time. You want to turn the heel face dynamic on its head? We'll put you against another bad guy when you go to Pittsburgh, so you can be adored in your hometown, which she was. And I think what's really strategic that she's doing is, I love how she's using Tony Schiavone. Now, that is there is obviously a kernel of a genuine relationship there. It's evident to me that Britt is learning from Tony, and Tony is also learning from Britt about how to react to things and timing and facial expressions and things like that. But it's a guaranteed must-watch whenever the two of them are backstage in an interview position, or whenever Britt comes out to join the commentary desk, because there's going to be some interaction, and I think it's it's heartwarming the way they interact with each other. Some people go ahead and call it creepy, go ahead and call it whatever, he shouldn't be standing next to her, and he shouldn't be looking at her like that. You don't know what that relationship is. Let's just say that it's helping Britt grow, and it's helping Britt be a better performer, and it's giving Tony a way to stay relevant beyond the commentary desk, or beyond somebody just jerking the microphone out of his hand and shoving him off, and then I'm just gonna talk to the people. Why are you even out there then? So that's my thoughts on it. I mean, this one was about as close to a slam dunk of any of the categories as you could get, because you'd have to reach if we picked any of the other women, I think.
Agree.
So we're going to move on next to another brand new award, and it is the best stable of the year. And of course, a stable is a collection, a brotherhood, as it were, of performers that band together for a common interest. And Isaac, you have the nominees for best stable of the year 2021. Go.
The best stable of the year: Best Friends, Toxic Attraction, The Dark Order, The Bloodline, or The Elite, or The Super Click. And the winner for Best Stable is The Bloodline.
Be the ones.
Be the ones. Now, we got to sit here and talk about The Bloodline real quick. Obviously, Roman Reigns has had a lock on the title for the entire year. He's gone through everybody and anything. And now with the Usos having his back, sometimes they've gotten involved, sometimes they have not. But they also are the World Tag Team Champions, and deservedly so. They are phenomenal. at what they do, and I'm not mad at them for it. They have had, in the moment that they finally got back together and everyone got healthy and they were all on the same page, they look invincible. And I don't know how long that's going to go, but they haven't taken an L. They did take an L last week, with the fact that they were in that tag team match, with the New Day and Orton and Riddle all wrestling, which I thought honestly should have been on Raw instead of SmackDown. But you know what? I'm not the booker here. The fact that we got to see it and we got to see it on TV makes my day right then and there, because you saw great tag team wrestling, and it was on Raw and SmackDown, because you haven't seen that in a very, very long time. So with that being said, is there anything else that you would like to add? Do you think we got it wrong? Do you think there was some other team that we left out?
Well, the whole point of a stable is it's a group of people that come together and there's a clear leader. The best stables have a clear leader. We don't sit around when we talk about the best stables and bring up the job squad. Okay? We don't talk about, social outcasts, and we don't talk about them for a reason. The best stables were a bunch of guys in service of a true leader. You look at the Four Horsemen, it was clear that Rick was the be-all, end-all there. NWO was designed to get Hogan over. Again, DX, at first it was about Shawn, then you saw the evolution of that to Triple H. Evolution, you've got Triple H as the man and Rick as kind of like a second in command there, but you're breaking in new people with Batista and Randy Orton. The Bloodline, you look at their presentation, there's no doubt they are there to put up roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. You want to step to Roman Reigns, you got to get through everybody else first. You got to get through the Usos, and you got to get through Paul Heyman, the master manipulator. The special counsel to the tribal chief. And Wrestling with Ego's pick for best manager of all time. You don't believe us? Watch the episode from last week. Thank you to all of those who did watch that episode and chime in on all of our various platforms. We do appreciate that. You would be grasping at straws for any of the other factions here. Dark Order basically doesn't have a leader right now. You could say it's Hangman, but they're really just kind of coming and going with Hangman as they need. Toxic Attraction's too new. I love what they're doing with Mandy Rose, JC Jane, and Gigi Dolan. I think it's great that those three ladies have a great characters to sink their teeth into. The Elite are kind of eternal. The Elite are kind of like above it all at this point. Kenny can go away for a while, and now you got Cole. And they may be getting ready to tell a great story with Cole, Fish, and O'Reilly if he debuts down the line. Spoiler alert. My vote here was for Best Friends, only for the simple reason that with who they've aligned themselves with. And all of a sudden, you look at how big Best Friends have gotten in terms of volume of people. You've got Orange Cassidy, of course. You've got Chuck and Trent. You've got Chris Statlander. You got Wheeler Yuta. Rocky Romero is showing up a lot on television, and now they're aligned with Chaos, which I'm salivating at the possibilities of what that could mean for who might show up on Dynamite or these pay-per-view events. Yeah, so that's why Best Friends kind of got my vote because of who they've aligned themselves with. But if you look at a bunch of supporting characters in service of the man or the woman, you've got to go Bloodline. I totally get that. So you will have no arguments from me on that result. Which brings us to our next and another new award for us to hand out this year. We're really excited about this one. It is the 2021 version of our Most Improved wrestler of the year? Why sit here and harp on the worst performer of the year when we can talk about the people that put in that work and got better? Isaac, can you please share with us the nominees for the most improved wrestler of the year?
As we mentioned earlier, spoiler alert, we were talking about this wrestler earlier this year, earlier in the program here. Ricky Starks.
Makes an appearance here.
Here he is, right here, right now. Mandy Rose. The King of the Ring. Your boy, Xavier Woods. Y'all already know what it is. And Ty Conti. And the winner is Ty Conti.
Congratulations to you, miss.
Ty Conti has been putting in work. She's been looking fantastic. And I think that she's going to take it to the next level in 2022. She's been doing fantastic. I think she could possibly, if she keeps on this level, we could be talking about female wrestler of the year for next year.
Possibly. You know, when I think of Ty Conti, I think of the person who always comes to the rescue. Whenever Anna Jays needed help, Ty Conti's come to the rescue. Whenever Thunder Roses needed some help, Ty Conti's come to the rescue. Whenever there was a couple times where Hikaru Shida, I think, needed help this year doing some things, and here comes Ty Conti. And she's also gotten a lot more confident on the microphone. They're smart with her. They don't let her talk for very long, but when she does, it's to the point. Here's the point I want to get across. I'm going to take 45 seconds to do it. You know, because, you know, that's been a weakness of hers for a while. But when she gets in the ring, I always forget about her mixed martial arts background. I forget that she's a world-class mixed martial artist. So she uses that to her benefit in the ring all the time.
She is a badass with that mixed martial arts and what she's been doing. You know, she's fantastic with it.
And then the other nominees, there was one other nominee that we didn't mention. I'll give him a little bit of run right now. I'm late to the party on Jeff Cobb. And I want to say thank you to RJ for, you know, because a couple months ago when the G1 was going on and Jeff Cobb was winning match after match after match, and I said, you need to give me some background on this cat. And he gave me about a 2-paragraph messenger blurb about how he started out, and he went on an excursion, and he came back, and he was, you know, this, that. It feels like New Japan is positioning him to be the next big thing over there. And he had a great match with Shingo Takagi late in the year as well. So I want to give Jeff Cobb a lot of credit, too, as someone that got serious consideration for this category. Next award that we are handing out today is one of my favorite awards to hand out. It is the Breakout Star of the Year, a success story that kind of comes out of left field, where you're going along and then all of a sudden somebody reaches up and smacks you in the face. There were several candidates for that this year, and I have the nominees for this award. We start off in NXT with Bron Breakker. We have Bandito. We have Bad Bunny. We have Hook. They sent him. Send Hook.
Hook!
And despite how much we put over Hook on this show for the last month, the winner, slam dunk winner, by a healthy margin, he will be happy to know, of the Breakout Star of the Year is the Mad King, Mr. Eddie Kingston. Eddie, sir, you have been nothing short of a revelation this year. I say this about a lot of people on this show because my wrestling spectrum is still kind of narrow. I'm trying to, bust out the walls and put an addition over there and maybe add a solarium down there and stuff like that and the Lido deck up here and all that. The first time Eddie Kingston walked on my television and cut a promo, I was like, oh, okay, I'm paying attention now. if you have not read his Players Tribune piece from, I believe it was the middle of October, after you're done watching the rest of the Egie Awards tonight, I want you to look that up on the Players Tribune, because it really gets to the heart of why professional wrestlers do what they do. And it speaks to our tagline, this is why we love professional wrestling. Eddie's struggle is real. He's dealing with real issues. He just needed a canvas to paint on, and AEW appears to have given him that. He's been involved in a lot of different feuds this year. What I love is how he can wrestle against Jon Moxley and cut the scathing promos he was cutting against him at the tail end of last year, and then come out at the end of Revolution, during that facepalm moment, and cover up Jon Moxley's body because of what he thought was about to happen. That part of that match I will never get tired of watching, because that's some real, forgive my French here, but that's some real shit right there. That's not anything scripted or anything like that. You have to believe that Eddie thought something was going to go off a lot worse than it did. So for those reasons and a multitude more, that he's compelling whomever he's in the ring with. My God, the promo he cut with CM Punk a couple months ago. Before their set two at Full Gear, the way he rallies around his friends, in Death Triangle is amazing. So just for all of these reasons, Eddie Kingston, I just want to say thank you, because you have made wrestling very compelling to watch this year. You're a big reason why wrestling has been so compelling. Isaac, your thoughts?
I gotta agree with you on all those points. Eddie Kingston brings a matter of major realism to what he's saying, and you can tell that he believes in what he's saying and how he's saying it, and it comes across. The other people, I'm not mad at them. I'm glad that they finally brought Hook. And that debut was fantastic. But that was just one. One match. We've been sitting here, Bad Bunny, WrestleMania, looked utterly fantastic.
That came out of nowhere. I was not expecting a tenth of what we got from him. I was thinking, okay, this is going to be a Snooki, this is going to be a Lawrence Taylor. I mean, now Lawrence Taylor, I'm not going to, denigrate him. He was in the main event of WrestleMania 11, for crying out loud. But when you get a celebrity appearance at a wrestling event, you don't expect them to acquit themselves the way Bad Bunny did. And from all reports, he was great to work with. He was great in the training room. He opened his ears and shut his mouth, as the saying goes. He didn't make all kinds of demands. He wanted to learn. And then, my God, that Canadian Destroyer, say what you will about that move, and is it legit? I mean, you go out and do it. If you think it's an easy move, you get out there and you try it and not kill somebody.
That, like I said, Bad Bunny, I'm not gonna sit here and slam him in any way. But that match at WrestleMania was fantastic, phenomenal. It really was. And whoever comes after him, good luck trying to top that match. Merry Christmas to you. Because I don't know if that's ever going to happen again.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Moving on to the next award of the evening, we have the best title reign of the year 2021. And there are some great candidates for this one. The nominees are Bianca Belair, primarily from SmackDown, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, from AEW, The Cleaner, Kenny Omega, also from AEW, Roman Reigns, SmackDown, and from NXT UK we have Walter. Honestly, if you could have said any of the five and it would not have been controversial. But at the end of the day, this was pretty much a unanimous decision. There was one dissenter, but the Egie Award for Best Title Reign goes to Roman Reigns, appropriately enough. Roman Reigns found several creative ways to hang on to the championship this year. But crunch time, he was the one doing the work himself. And the exhibit I want to point you to is the triple threat match at WrestleMania that also involved Edge and Daniel Bryan. There was really no involvement from anyone else in that match because Edge and Daniel Bryan saw to it that the Usos did not play a role in that, with all of the shenanigans on the outside of the ring. But when it came down to it, Roman Reigns did exactly what he said he was going to do. He was going to smash him, he was going to stack him, and then he was going to pin him. And Roman deserves a lot of credit for his metamorphosis on the microphone, in the ring, against all manner of competitor. Because if you look at the list of people Roman has had to face this year for that championship, it reads like a who's who. You know, he turned away Kevin Owens in the winter. He turned away Daniel Bryan and Edge at WrestleMania. He then turned around and wrestled Daniel Bryan in Bryan's final WWE match, which was a brilliant match on SmackDown. And then all through the summer, you know, dealing with the return of Brock Lesnar, dealing with Finn Balor, the Demon. But the less we say about that match, the better, for obvious reasons, because Bryan will start hyperventilating if we do talk about it.
Yeah, we don't know how this is going to end, boys and girls. Let's not go down this road at this moment.
We're going to go back to Facepalm Moment of the Year, and we're gonna award. Just kidding, no, we're not. With Facepalm is still the WWE releases, but be that as it may, I mean, you can make an argument for Roman as most improved too. You know, if you really think about it, I mean, you know, just the leaps and bounds he's made since Suffer and Succotash 5 years ago.
Right.
It's staggering. So, as I said before, you can't really go wrong with any of these 5 people, but Roman, as a reward for all of the work that he's put in, because it's still work to go out there and be this character and wrestle the different kinds of matches. I mean, the match against Cesaro, geez, you know, I almost forgot about that one. So, you know, we are getting down to the nitty gritty. 4 awards remain. On to the next, which is a stacked category in its own right, Male Wrestler of the Year. We handed out female earlier in the evening to Dr. Britt Baker. The nominees for the Egie Award for Male Wrestler of the Year are Hangman Adam Page, Roman Reigns, Shingo Takagi from New Japan, Kenny Omega from AEW, and Bryan Danielson, now from AEW, formerly from WWE. I want to talk about each of these 5 in succession before we anoint our winner, because this is another category where you could have gone in any direction, and I don't think anybody would have had a problem with it. Let's start with Hangman. This guy has been on the most psychological of any of these, most psychological run of any of these people. The crisis of confidence, you know, leaving to spend time with his newborn son, coming back, mending fence with the Dark Order, finally getting his shot at Kenny Omega at Full Gear, and overcoming all of the doubts. And that's why I love Hangman Adam Page so much. We all deal with doubt. We all wonder if we're ever going to be good enough at something. And at the end of the day, you just have to take your shot. And that's what Page did at Full Gear, and he wound up winning. And there's something to be said for that kind of a character being presented on television. In my research for these awards, I kept seeing a name pop up over and over again on the first page of the Star Wrestlings from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and that name was Shingo Takagi. If you have not done so, boys and girls, take some time and get some clips on YouTube, or if you subscribe to New Japan World, watch some Shingo Takagi matches, because this man, I don't have the list in front of me, was involved in at least 4 or 5 of the top 20 matches of the year. Some of them happened at the New Japan Cup. Some of them happened during the G1. Some of them happened at some of the other events of the year. But this man did not have a dud. I mean, just quality match after quality match. Kenny Omega's record speaks for itself. He is now taking some much-deserved time off to nurse some injuries and get some rest and recuperation. We wish him all the best, but Kenny's track record is self-explanatory. If we had gone with him, I don't think anybody would have had qualms with it. And then we get to a guy who got my vote for this award. I can't think of another wrestler who's had a better year from bookend to bookend than Bryan Danielson. I can't. I know that we're going to give the award to the last guy I'm going to mention, and I'm fine with that. But I sit here and I'm in staggering awe at the year that Bryan Danielson had. He went through the entire Dark Order like a warm knife through butter. He got 2 of the best matches out of Roman Reigns before he left WWE, on good terms, by the way. He's not had a bad word to say about Vince or the writers in WWE or the talent he's worked with or anything like that. And it doesn't matter who he's in the ring with. He has a banger match with them. It doesn't matter who he's talking in the ring with. He's been cutting heel promos for a month and a half now. All of a sudden, just like that, because I'm working with Hangman now, I'm not the beloved indie wrestler that you guys loved
ever.
Yeah, in the summer. Now I am this condescending prick that, is insulted that I have to be in the same ring with somebody like Hangman Adam Page, who surrounds himself with all these buddies and stuff like that. Fine, I'll pick them off one by one. The character work, the in-ring pedigree, the arsenal of submissions, all of it. And just the no frills. You're not going to buy my t-shirt at the merchandise stand. I'm just going to wear a white t-shirt to the ring. It's brilliant. So he got my vote, but ultimately we gave that hardware once again to Roman Reigns, who is reaching the cleanup portion of the Egie Awards, because Roman has had a fantastic year. And I think he won this award, Isaac, correct me if I'm wrong, because mostly of the character work.
I believe.
Which we might not have known that he was capable of before this presentation with the Usos and with Paul Heyman. Your thoughts on that aspect of the character?
The character that he has developed now is taken it to another level. And it's gotten to the point where and I'm going to use an example of what happened a few years ago when John Cena said, learn how to do a promo, kid. He can do a promo right now. Yeah. And you can tell that he's gotten to that level of John Cena when it comes to cutting promos and going back and forth with people. Now, I'm not going to say he's up there with The Rock, Stone Cold. Someone might say otherwise, and he might, and that might be coming real soon because their styles are different. But I think that he has done fantastic work, especially all around, especially with his mic skills, and being great at telling a story, especially up against, Jay in the tag, facing him in the steel cage, and then, making it seem, that he's doing this, because he has to, and then, going after his brother and, finding another way to work, it was fantastic.
That's something that might be worth exploring down the road, is the elements that go into a good promo, not what are the greatest promos in history, because we've talked about that, but the art of the promo. Because I would argue that some of the best promos ever, the guys and the girls don't go on forever. Some of the best promos are only like a minute long or only 2 minutes long. It's not like you need to be like me, who I feel like I've been talking for like 10 years during this episode, and if I have, I sincerely apologize. No, I don't. I'm the intellectual savior of the wrestling masses. I don't have anything to apologize for. Be that as it may. It takes a special kind of performer to be handed a mic and say, okay, you got 90 seconds before your opponent comes out. You know, Rock could do that. To an extent, Austin could do that. I think Adam Cole is great at that. Roman Reigns never used to be really good at that. He would meander. He would, search for the right thing to say, the right turn of phrase. And I think you're right. I think him being, his punk card being played by Cena all those years ago might have been the spark that lit the fire. Where he went back and he thought to himself, you know what? Yeah, I do have to get better at this. And I would argue that why he's become great is because he's not expected to talk for 10 minutes. There's not many people that can do that. Ric Flair could walk out there and talk for 10 minutes, either by himself or with somebody else, and it'd be fine. Triple H can do the same thing. Roman shouldn't need to be asked to do that. Okay, you got 2 minutes here. Or in that 2 minutes, maybe Paul Heyman talks for a minute and a half of that, and Roman just says a couple of sentences and drops the mic.
Or just gives a...
Yeah, or doesn't have to say anything. And I think he's learned the gestures and the facial expressions say more than the words ever could. Like that. So richly deserved for Roman Reigns. But again, we couldn't go wrong with any of these.
I just want to put in one more thing real quick, and that's Kenny Omega real quick. He was wrestling with Vertigo when he was still the World Heavyweight title. And I don't know if you, my friends, have ever had to deal with something like that. That's crippling, let alone, normally just crippling.
You got to think about safety.
And you being thrown off. And you being that in control of yourself, your body, and then also the other person that you're with trusting you enough to do what you do and do it at that level. I just want to make sure that we at least put that out there, because that's something that's really impressive to do.
Yes. Kenny gets mad props for that.
Absolutely.
Next award of the evening is our award for the moment, the best moment of the year. And this is across all promotions. Isaac, you have the list for this one. Let's go.
All right. Number one, in no particular order, Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair, WrestleMania main event, main eventing WrestleMania day one, WrestleMania 37. Matt Cardona beating Nick Gage for the GCW Championship. Bad Bunny, eye-opening performance, WrestleMania 37. Kazuchika
Katsuyori.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I got you.
Shocking return after having brain surgery in October. Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson debut at AEW All Out. CM Punk returning to wrestling after 7 years away. The underwhelming conclusion of Omega Moxley at AEW Revolution, where, if you don't know the conclusion which I'm referring to, that was the exploding match. So, this award, the moment of the year, was pretty much a slam dunk. Almost a slam dunk, but it was like LeBron. It could have been Jordan, but us basically, it is CM Punk returning to wrestling after 7 years. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't really need to go that deep into it on why. Well, this is one of the reasons we love wrestling. He came back, and you stood there, and you could feel it. You could feel the love. You could feel it in the arena. It was, I don't want to say, it was electrifying. It was something that you wanted
Go ahead and say it.
Yeah, you would love
it. It works here.
It totally works. And everyone was electrified the moment that it became real. And when he actually showed up, and you basically lost your shit. And you did. And you were just
There's
like,
archival footage of us doing a live watch along for that episode of Rampage where one of the three of us was in tears, and it was me. So that was my criteria for this. I mean, if it drove me to tears, because I started to think, okay, he's not coming back. He's content with his life. Him and AJ have built a life for themselves, and it doesn't have anything to do with wrestling, and I'm fine with that, But his return hit every note. I'm even getting choked up talking about it now, but his return hit every note you wanted to hit. The joy was there with him, dropping to his knees at the top of the ramp and crowd surfing for a little bit and acknowledging all the people in the crowd. And most importantly, letting the people in the back know, I'm putting you over. This is not a vanity fest. And pretty much ever since then, if you really parse what he's been saying, he's been reveling in the fact that he can work with all of this great talent. Like he said, yes, I've got some scores to settle too, but I mean, the match with Darby Allin and the promo battles with MJF over the past several weeks have been out of this world. The tete-a-tete with Eddie Kingston, my goodness, chef's kiss. You can tell he's just enjoying the crap out of it. And that's what was missing for the longest time for CM Punk, was the joy. So, I mean, it's honorable mention, I think, to Katsuyori Shibata, because that's some legendary stuff right there. To come back from brain injury and now he's going to be going back to what appears to be a full-time schedule in New Japan is just awe-inspiring. So mad props to you, sir.
Absolutely. I wouldn't even consider doing something like that, and that's amazing.
Isaac has the penultimate, there's a word for you, the penultimate award of the evening. It is match of the year amongst all non-AEW promotions. That's what we're going with.
Okay, let us begin. Now,
where do you hear these matches?
Oh, here we go. And here we go. In no particular order. Evolve Title versus Ilya Drago, TakeOver 36. Seth Rollins versus Edge, Crown Jewel, WWE. The men's Money in the Bank, won by your boy, Big E. Shingo Takagi, I'm sorry. I'm butchering names. Versus Jeff Cobb.
Yeah. Actually, I think you have a different list in front of you than I gave you before this, because we changed a few of these up.
I apologize.
Walter and Ilya is correct. Seth Rollins and Edge is correct. We're actually going with Will Ospreay and Shingo Takagi from New Japan Cup in March. We're going with Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks from WrestleMania 37. Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens, the last man standing match in the Royal Rumble. And then the triple threat from Mania 37, Reigns, Daniel Bryan, and Edge. Because the denouement of this is going to be important about why those matches are the way they are. So I'll take the reins really quick on this, and then I'll give it back to you.
Go right ahead.
The voting for this match or this category was the closest of any of these categories. And sidebar, want to thank the good Dr. Chris Muller from Bleacher Report for his contributions to this voting. We sent him along the categories, and he made his picks. Your contributions have been very valuable this year, sir. We hope to continue collaborating with you in the future. But 4 of these matches from this list got 1 vote each. All 4 of us voted for a different match of the year candidate, which was hilarious. Not really. But Walter and Ilya Dragunov got 1 vote from the doctor, Chris Muller. Seth Rollins and Edge from Crown Jewel got my vote. Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens from the Royal Rumble got Patrick's vote. Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, Isaac, got your vote. So we had to have a pre-show meeting where we're like, what do we do? And then you get to tell them what we did.
The final vote, if I'm not mistaken, we discussed it was going to be, I believe, Seth Rollins versus Edge, Crown Jewel. Now, there are going to be some people that are not here tonight. They're going to say, you're completely wrong. Well, you're completely not here. Your vote doesn't count. That's really going to upset some people.
Well, not that your vote doesn't count. It's just that you're not here to persuade us to go in that direction. And, again, this is another category where there's really no wrong answer.
Absolutely.
So, talk a little bit, if you will, about why we ultimately decided to go with Edge and Seth Rollins.
We decided to go with Seth Rollins and Edge because number 1 was a fantastic match. Number 2, it was great storytelling on the whole storyline of it. We stood here and we talked about the fact that yes, it was at Crown Jewel, and that was probably the best match that they had at Crown Jewel, and it was the first match, and we're like, really? Because nothing else really could compete or match up with it, unfortunately.
With the possible exception of Xavier Woods beating Finn Balor to become King of the Ring. That'd be the only other match you could make an argument for.
Right. We also want to specifically talk about, give an honorable mention to Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks, WrestleMania, Day 1. And not only just because it's 2 females that are headlining WrestleMania, but at the same time, it's 2 African-American females that are headlining WrestleMania. And that is huge. We could go, we all have our opinions. We all either feel one way or another about, each one of those matches, and it could have gone either way to anybody.
I think this year with the Match of the Year awards, and you're going to see that with our final one of the evening here in a minute, we give a lot of credence to cultural significance. We feel like that's something that you got to take into consideration now a little bit more. And I remember when we were watching WrestleMania together over Google Meet that first night, you commented how big of a deal the Banks Belair match was for you personally, and we totally co-signed on that with you because it was a tremendous match independent of any cultural nuance. But the fact that you then had 2 African-American females being trusted with the go-home match on the first night of Mania, and they delivered an athletic, technical showpiece and rose to the occasion. Because I'll be honest with you, at the beginning of the match, I thought they were both going to crumble under the weight of expectations. Kind of like Sasha and Charlotte did with the Hell in a Cell match a couple of years ago. I feel like that match left me wanting more. Like they were making out to be this big thing, and then it kind of like fell apart and collapsed under its own weight. I thought for a moment this match was going to do the same thing. But once they locked up and started getting after it, all those fears were put to rest for me. Will Ospreay, Shingo Takagi, one of the highest rated matches of the year by Wrestling Observer Newsletter. and by any other race system you want to give. I wrestled with Walter Ilya Dragunov for a long time. I watched that match. That was actually the first match I watched in preparation for these awards. And I remember thinking how different a style Ilya wrestled compared to the one from last year that won match of the year. He was a lot more interested in taking the fight to Walter this time, catching him before he could deliver the chops and kicks, and setting the pace as opposed to having to answer all the time. And then the Reigns-Kevin Owens match that got Patrick's vote. I had forgotten about that one. I went back and watched that one because that was all the way back in January, and that's the one where Roman Reigns ran Kevin Owens down with the golf cart and did it a lot better than the Stadium Stampede match from AEW. It was a lot more... It looked a lot more legit and painful. Like, how did Kevin Owens get up from that? Because he took the entire plexiglass bug shield in the mush and still got up and did the suicide dive off the forklift and all that kind of stuff. But it's like you said before, Isaac, about Rollins versus Edge. The story draws you in. It's a battle of wills. It's in Hell in a Cell, which is the final boss match now in WWE, is to have it in Hell in a Cell. But it doesn't work for just anybody. That's why you're not going to see Elias versus Madcap Moss in a Hell in a Cell match anytime soon. It's a special kind of match for a special kind of wrestler. And this story and that rivalry dictated that it had to end in a Hell in a Cell match. And the fact that it got me to queue up a Crown Jewel promotion and watch it is saying something, given how we all feel about that promotion and why it exists and things like that. That being said, we congratulate Seth Rollins and Edge for winning that Egie Award for Match of the Year in all other promotions. But it is time. It is finally time for the final award of the evening. We decided to give All Elite Wrestling their own category for Match of the Year because we realized not too far into our preparation for this evening that if we didn't give AEW their own category, none of those other promotions would have had a snowball's chance in hell of measuring up to these matches. So we gave them their own category. You go over and play in the sandbox over there. AEW is going to be over here on the basketball court trying to decide this. This was another hotly contested category, and at various points, I think there were 9 matches that were in serious consideration for this award. One of the matches I'm about to list here just happened this week. That's how hot and heavy this category got. So the nominees for the All Elite Wrestling Match of the Year Egie Award are as follows. From All Out, the steel cage match for the Tag Team Championships, the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Bros. From Full Gear, we have the opening match of the night. Think about that, folks. That pay-per-view kicked off with Darby Allin versus MJF. And I needed oxygen after that match. Then we had from All Elite Wrestling Grand Slam in September, their Flushing show where they have Wimbledon. Or no, where they have... Not Wimbledon, that's in London. Where they have the U.S. Open tennis match, sorry. We have Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson. From St. Patrick's Day Slam, a lights-out, unsanctioned match between Britt Baker and hashtag friend of show Thunder Rosa. And the match in question from this week, a 60-minute time limit draw for the AEW Championship between Adam Page and Bryan Danielson. Yes, I mentioned Bryan Danielson's name twice. How he did not win Male Wrestler of the Year is beyond me, but dems to breaks. This category also had a split decision that we had to workshop and figure out, because Omega and Danielson from Grand Slam got 2 votes. Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa also got 2 votes. But at the end of the day, my argument that ultimately swayed everybody else was you have 2 women entrusted with the main event match on a marquee program in a stipulation that most women don't even sniff. Lights out matches are called lights out for a reason, because you turn the lights off in the arena and now we're not responsible anymore. When the lights go off in the arena, that means the show technically is over, and anything that happens after that result technically doesn't count. It's not part of your won-loss record. It's not part of your official match card. But this match happened, boys and girls. You can cue it up. It's on YouTube, and it's a barn burner. These 2 women to this point had been dancing around each other and towards each other. We are still waiting for that moment when Thunder Rosa ultimately takes the AEW Women's Championship off of Britt Baker. And I guarantee you, boys and girls, the peasants will rejoice when that happens.
We will.
But this match was the first match I wrote down this year for Match of the Year. I got done watching it back in March. I grabbed a legal pad out of my drawer, got the pen out, and I started Match of the Year. Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa, and it in pen. If I had a Sharpie, I would have grabbed a Sharpie instead. Because lights out matches are barbaric. They are balls to the wall. They are what you do when you physically can't take it anymore. Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley had one last year. Or no, in 2019, rather, that was, otherworldly. This one is also in otherworldly territory. All of the other matches are most deserving, but this was also the match that made Dr. Britt Baker DMD. It turned her into a star because she had that moment where the camera pans across her bloodied face, a la Stone Cold versus Bret Hart from WrestleMania 13 with the double turn. A la Mick Foley in the Hell in a Cell match with Triple H, where he's laying in the corner with a tooth through his nose. He's smiling. He likes it and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's one of those moments that you crave as a wrestler. They turn it into a T-shirt. She's laughing as the blood, goes down her face and stuff like that. And Thunder Rosa won the match. I mean, that's what gets lost in the shuffle and all this. Rosa actually won the match, and all anybody wants to talk about is Britt Baker and how she made herself. But props to her. Any of these other matches would have been worthy. I think it would be tempting to go with Paige and Danielson from the other night because of recency bias, but we can't fall into that trap when we're doing a year-end award show because, why don't we just give it to all the matches we saw last week and all the stuff like that. You have to, that's where you earn your salt as a wrestling podcast, is by considering everything, the totality of it. Isaac, final thoughts from you either on this award or on the awards in general? And if I like what you say, I will give you your own complimentary Egie award.
I want one, ladies and gentlemen. I want to be honest with you, that lights out match was fantastic. It did make Dr. Britt Baker who she is and got her to the next level that, you sit here and you look at other people and you say, we want her to specifically face, someone like a Charlotte, a Becky. You want her to face someone else that's on her level because no one else is really there yet. You can look at Thunder Rosa and be like, yeah, she's there. But, they can't do that every night.
Right, because it won't be special anymore.
It's not special anymore after that. even though I did love the match. It was fantastic. In the other matches, you can sit here and talk about Lucha Brothers, Young Bucks, that steel cage match. Oh my God!
Apologies to RJ for that. RJ lobbied hard for that one, and it just didn't get enough. It didn't get enough love from everybody else that was voting to be considered. But if it had, I would not have been sad about that at all.
We wouldn't have been sad about all these matches. MJF versus Darby Allin, Eddie Kingston versus CM Punk. Oh my, these guys were putting it out there, and they all are deserving. And so we just have to sit here and be honest about it and say the truth. The truth of the matter is, it could have gone either way, but that's what we decided to do in the end. For the most part, the entire awards, yes, it seemed like we should be giving it to a couple other people because they've had phenomenal years. We've had, matches that you stood there and were like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is the one that you're going to look to and say, okay, this is the way you want to do a match. This is the way you want to tell a story. They've been doing great with that.
I mean, at the end of the day, we should just sit back and say thank you to all of the performers through, regardless of promotion, whether it's New Japan, AAA, Impact, AEW, WWE. Thank you for doing what you do. It's why we love professional wrestling. It's not just a pithy catchphrase that we toss out at the end of every show. We mean it, and it's instructive for us to take a walk down memory lane every once in a while and figure out, what was the best of the best. And yes, we look at other promotions or other write-ups and see what they do, and we use that as kind of a starting point. But, there's great wrestling happening all over the world. You just got to go out and take a look at it, and that's what we're trying our best to do. Want to take a moment also as we kind of wrap things up here for the year 2021 and say thank you to everybody who's checked us out, our subscribers, our families, who allow us to take time each week out of our lives and deliver this prime cut of wrestling podcast to you. Thank you to Patrick in absentia tonight. Thank you to RJ for your contributions this year. And once again, thank you to the good doctor, Chris Muller. You can see all of our contact information scrolling across the screen. We will be taking our holiday hiatus over the course of the next couple of weeks, enjoying Christmas and New Year's with our families. But we are already hard at work on things to do in 2022. Hey, that rhymes. I just came up with that. I'm going to write that one down. One of the first things on the docket, we got asked by a contributor, commenter on YouTube to do a review of WCW Starrcade. I believe the year is 1992. I do not have the comment in front of me, so if I have the year wrong, I apologize. Good sir, that is on the agenda. We will be endeavoring to review that and give our thoughts on it, all the different matches that occurred at that pay-per-view very early on in the year 2022. There's also going to be some more GOAT talks. I think an examination of what makes a good promo is worth spending some time on. Not, like I said, not necessarily talking about the best promos of all time, but really the nuts and bolts of it. Like, what should people be looking to say as they come out of there? So, with that being said, for Isaac, the Big Mang, over there in camera 2, for Patrick and RJ, and for myself, the intellectual savior of the wrestling masses, I thank you very much for watching. And I wish to bestow on you an honorary Egie Award for the year 2021. Thank you for helping us be better. Thank you for your feedback. Enjoy your holiday season, whatever persuasion you celebrate. Make it a great one. Be safe, be well, and remember, this right here is why we love professional wrestling.